Hello again, everyone, and welcome back. You are watching the Vintage Sewing Machine Garage YouTube channel, and you are looking at the backside of my FOF Model 30. And I'm going to make a video today. It's just going to go into the cleaning series. I haven't had a cleaning series video uh, posted lately, and it's actually one of the most popular categories of videos on my channel. So I wanted to show this to you because it reminded me of something. I don't know if any of you have ever noticed, but with some of the sewing machines during the what I call the vintage era, the heirloom era of sewing machine manufacturer, it's not unusual to see decals with branding or stylized decoration. Certainly, on the bed of the machine. You see it almost always on the front of the machine, unless it was a plate that fell off somewhere. And then even on the back, you will sometimes see it. And with Singer, you often see it right across the top, if not all of these places. But you also see decals, sometimes lovely decals, on the back of the pillar of the body of the machine. And it might be curious to you. In fact, you may have one and not even know it, because when you have a vintage sewing machine, many of which, not all of course, are electric, the motor is often mounted right behind that pillar, which means you can't see, you cannot see the lovely decals. I only have one theory for this. Some of you may have more theories or a better theory. If you do, please share it down in there in the comments, which is that a part of me wonders if this was done because some of these machines were destined, even if they had a hole here on the side where you could put a bolt to mount the bracket for a motor. Many of these machines were also still being put into treadle tables, and with the treadle table, although the sewer was not looking at the back of the machine, they were facing it from the other side in the front. A treadle table could be out, on display, and I wonder if the manufacturer did this to make sure everyone knew it was a FOF or a Singer or whatever the brand is that you have. So anyway, I'm curious. Let me know what you all think, because I think it's very strange. It's a lovely decal, but it probably didn't get seen very much. Now, the reason I started, I wanted to have the video with these two little bottles here. Now, what are you looking at? The bottle on the left contains sewing machine oil, otherwise known as mineral oil. For those of you who have not seen it, I made a video on what is sewing machine oil. It only took 10 years to create. And in there I mentioned there are different kinds of mineral oil. The light version, there's two. Light mineral oil you will often find in the section of a pharmacy where they cover skin products. This is a generalization. You'll have to ask them if you're not sure. And then in another area of the pharmacy or drugstore, they will often have a heavier or thicker version of mineral oil, and that is in the digestive assistance section, because it's a very old school thing. They used to use mineral oil as a laxative. I don't recommend that, but you talk to your pharmacist. Okay, but the reason I just wanted to emphasize the light, L-I-G-H-T. I don't mean light as in color, but lighter weight, which is the mineral oil that people might use. You find this in baby oil, scented or unscented, and then of course you find it in mineral oil that's used to be used on the skin. Again, these are in the what I call the old legacy sections of a drugstore. But that's what you see here on the left. On the right is valve oil. What is valve oil? Valve oil is a form of mineral oil, but you'll notice this is not a scientific way to measure. It's very, very thin as compared to even the light mineral oil. And you all have seen me use this product on the right, the valve oil, but I use it to clean when I'm trying to get a piece of a sewing machine's mechanical parts moving. They're stick, or they're either stuck or they're stiff. I will sometimes use valve oil because it can penetrate more easily because it's thinner and it has a solvent. Now, that is the key word here, a solvent. Valve oil, it says oil on it, but it's not only oil. Whenever you see any product, and this is very true of all of those penetrant oils I've talked about, the 3-in-1 oils, there's PB Black. There are all these brands of penetrants, and those products are used to basically get metal parts that are stuck unstuck, and they are very thin and they have a different purpose. They are not to be used for lubrication. Neither is valve oil. The only thing curious about valve oil is I found it in a music store, in a place that sells musical instruments, because it's used for brass horn instruments. So why is it here? Why am I showing it to you? I'm basically showing it to you to explain why I'm not going to use it to clean the machine. So I'm going to make this, I believe, part of, again, the cleaning series on the channel here. Haven't done one of those in a while. So what I'm looking at is mostly what I believe to be dust. Over time, as usually just house dust, this machine was in a table. I believe it was in climate control comfort all its life, which helped it. But you still get issues of dust, and you get more dust on a machine in a table than you do in a carry case. However, you are less likely, not guaranteed, but less likely to get issues of mildew and mold in a machine and a table. Sometimes, okay? Have to put the little asterisk down there, you never know. But what you often get here is, you'll notice there's just basically a layer of dust, and sometimes that dust feels a little sticky, and the reason for that is over time, humidity, the dust will absorb moisture and it forms this kind of dusty film. Now, one of the simplest and safest things to use to clean the body and paint finish of a sewing machine is sewing machine oil. Of all the things that a machine might get exposed to over its life, the manufacturers knew that sewing machine oil, yes, that and lint and dust were going to get on the machine. So the valve oil is, compared to some of the other penetrants, it may be mild, but I am not going to take a gamble, right? I don't, to paraphrase the line from a famous movie, I don't feel lucky. I'm not going to do that. Why? When you're trying to clean something, less is always more. You always want to start with the least aggressive substance to clean your machine with. This is very important for all vintage sewing machines, and it is extra important for those with black finishes. I do not know what the system was that Pfaff used in its machines, but I do know that with Singer's and many other brands that had black machines, they would apply a black coating, then they would apply decals, or decals, depending on how you pronounce that word, and then they would apply a clear coat finish. I know that that was the case with Singer. I don't know, Pfaff may have done, a lot of makers did this to give it that glorious shine. However, these finishes can be extremely vulnerable even to mild solvents. I've already mentioned to you all, don't get alcohol, isopropyl alcohol, anywhere near this finish. It will dissolve it, and I mean instantaneously. So what about valve oil? It's got a little bit of solvent, is a little okay. I'm not willing to take that chance. Now, someone might take a little valve oil, put it on maybe a cotton swab and try it and see. But I'm not going to. Why? Because I may not even need that. So, what am I going to do other than sit here and talk in this video? Let's do some cleaning. So people have different things they use. You can use a paper towel. Paper towels don't, they start to disintegrate quickly. If you have one of those blue shop towels, they hold up a little bit longer. I like to use rags. I always have rags. Either I have remnant fabrics that I use to do test stitching on. What I've got today is, this is an old flannel pillowcase that it's long since past its days. Now, you don't have to use flannel. This is 100% cotton, by the way, and I like cotton because it absorbs, and it's less likely to scratch your finish than, say, nylon or a polyester, and some of you may have used those with no problem. Now, over here, beyond, you can barely see it in the camera, I'm putting my finger over there, that bright yellow towel, that is a microfiber towel, and it is only sitting on this table to catch. I just needed a towel and didn't have one of my old cotton towels. That is there only to hold little parts still so they don't go bouncing. I would strongly suggest you never ever use microfiber towels on a delicate paint finish because it will scratch them. Microfiber towels are a lot more aggressive than you think they are, and I learned that the hard way. So what am I going to do? I'm going to start above, right up here, and I'm just going to, I've got my, and notice, don't gouge your paint finish with your oiler. This is a brass tipped oiler, so I'm just letting a few drops here. And what am I doing? I'm basically, and you can be more liberal with this if you want. You can just, be a little more frugal with the oil. But what am I trying to do? I'm not actually touching that paint finish with this because the tip of my oiler is sharp, and I'm not scratching this lovely finish. No way. So what am I doing? Actually, because this is sewing machine oil, I'm just going to gently just sort of smear it around there. And it almost looks like I'm painting it with sewing machine oil. And what am I doing? I want that oil to sort of just sit there. Now, how long it needs to sit there depends on how stubborn and thick and old the film of dust is. And that is something you'll need to gauge for yourself. And I can actually come around here to the side. This, of course, this is the area where the bracket's going to go. This is very loose dust over here. So I'm just going to brush that off, right? And I still may have kind of a sort of a filthy looking film there. So I'm going to go ahead and I can, you don't have to do this sort of sewing machine wash, as I call it. It's kind of an over the top term, perhaps. You don't have to do this with every part of your machine because parts of this machine are gorgeous. I don't even think they need any of this treatment. But it is very common to see a film in parts of the machine that basically never, they never got clean because you really didn't get to see them very much. Now, what you'll notice, and I don't know how much of this I can see because I've got sort of a tan colored fabric. White fabric would be easier. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to simply come across here, and the oil has not been sitting that long. If your film of old dust and dirt is more stubborn, you want to let the oil sit longer. Sewing machine oil is not nearly as fast as something like valve oil, but don't do it. You're going to be tempted. Don't get in a hurry. If you use valve oil, it might work or it might ruin the finish. And that would really that's just not fun, right? So let's not do that. The machine has waited a long time to get its due here. And, I can see the fabric's darker because of the oil, but I don't know. But, in the end, I'll know how good of a job it's doing by how clean the machine is. And I'm basically letting that oil lift up basically it's just dust, dust that's been kicked up. Doesn't mean that the original owner didn't have a clean home. Even the cleanest house, well, you all know, you can have a clean house and a fantastic HVAC filter system, and you're still going to end up having to vacuum. That's just the nature of things. Okay, so what I've done here, and this here looks like this may be just a very mild scratch. It's not even all the way through the paint, so that's okay. There's nothing I really need to do with that. So now that I've done that, I'm going to come back with a dry side of the rag here and I'm basically buffing. I don't want to have it very greasy and oily. That's not the point. The oil has a way of feeding the finish, and this is true if you've ever polished antique furniture. Obviously the furniture is wood, but what you'll find is that certain types of varnishes, finishes, whether they were lacquers or shellacs, they will absorb things like polishes and waxes and oils in a way that urethane modern finishes don't. That's why it's hard to get a nice shine on a urethane finish. You get what you get when the finish is new, and that's that. So that looks an awful lot better to me. What's going on over here? We got anything over here? Nah, not really. So that's what I'm seeing here. And you might think to yourself, well, why are you even bothering to do this? Because the motor's going back. This again is part of the conservation, right? When I look to find a new owner for this machine, I am presenting this machine as something that was fully gone through. I mean, let's do it. You can pay a little bit more, hopefully, if I find a buyer for this that really loves this machine. And they need to know that they're getting something other than just a used sewing machine, because we're going to have more videos, everyone, on shopping for machines. And I was looking for machines yesterday, and I was really just taken aback at some of the prices people are asking. I see machines sometimes that they ask more for their machines that they've drug out of a basement than I ask for a machine that's fully restored. And it's just because mostly I think they just don't know. They don't know what it's worth. They either overestimate or sometimes underestimate the value. But those of you who follow vintage machines, you have a better idea, at least in your own markets, of what do machines sell for? What are people demand? What's in demand? What do they want to pay for? If you've ever gone looking for a Singer featherweight, you know that you're not going to get one of those cheap. If you do, you got very lucky. So anyway, this is a video I wanted to make just to remind all of you. Now, granted, this was not hard to clean. This machine is black, and its dust film was not all that bad. The sewing machine oil took it right off. It's a fantastic option, and if when you apply the oil, if it still feels too slick or a little greasy, just come back with a fresh absorbent rag. And when you do, you're basically buffing the oil so that you're not leaving any excess residue. It's very shiny, but when I touch it here, I can tell that it's smooth, but it's not. It shouldn't feel greasy to you, because if you leave too much oil on there, well, you probably know this, you're going to get lots of oil can act as a magnet for dust, and you don't want that. But by buffing it this way, we should eliminate most of that issue. Now, some of you have asked, can I use waxes? You can, but again, remember, car places that sell car polish and car waxes, they have lots of options. Every one of those products has, even if it's a small amount, they have some solvent because they need it to emulsify the waxes and the synthetic sealants that are in that. It's kind of a brew. So if you're going to do that, try it down here. Go down someplace that you don't mind if you get a reaction that's unpleasant. None of us, including me, can predict, what will react chemically with the paint, that was put on a machine 75 years ago. Who knows? So always be prudent, right? Always take extra care if you're going to do something new. But when it comes to sewing machine oil, you should be safe. I have never had sewing machine oil do anything bad to a paint finish. Now it can only do so much. If this paint finish was all roughed up, it's not gonna work miracles. But in terms of a cleaner, I'm really, really happy to see what it's been doing. Some of the oil that I had sort of got over here, so I'll come back over here and buff from this side. You'll find that when a finish is very shiny and slick, you may not even need to buff it with oil at all, because the oil is just going to slide around. So I'm very excited about how this machine looks. But is beauty only skin deep? Right? We got to see if it's actually going to sew a stitch or not. And that, I make no promises until we get to that point. But we're getting there, everyone. So, behold the FOF Model 30, German design machine, made in England, for reasons that I still have to learn. If this has been a helpful video for you, or if you just enjoyed the channel generally, please consider donating to the channel. You can click on the Buy Me a Coffee links. You see them all over the place on every one of the videos on the home page. And you can make any size donation you would like, because it will help me get more of these machines rescued before people toss them away because they can't get them to work or they don't think they have any value. And then hopefully we get those machines, and then I will demonstrate different techniques of restoring, because every machine brand, every machine model, even within the brand, they all are different. They all vary. So the way we restore one machine is not exactly the same as another. And the more examples we can get on here, the more material I can share with all of you on the channel. And if you have not subscribed, just click the subscribe button. It's easy to do. And we will see you all next time as we're getting further and further along toward the goal of giving this FOF Model 30 a new life. If you have one of these machines, or if you don't, feel free to put your comments there down below, and we'll see you next time.